Donald Trump is crying harder today over Canada's TV commercial, and he may have screwed himself in the process. Now, if you missed it yesterday, Donald Trump was upset because Canada, specifically Ontario, is airing a commercial in the U.S. that discusses tariffs and the dangers on the U.S. economy. And they used Ronald Reagan's own words to make the commercial. Well, Donald Trump was crying all day yesterday. It was hard for him to enjoy his quarter pounder. And today he announces this, quote, "Because of their serious misrepresentation of the facts and hostile act, I am increasing the tariff on Canada by 10% over and above what they are paying now," unquote. Yeah, Donald Trump is setting foreign policy based on who hurt his feelings, who made him cry. This is how Donald Trump is acting, like a child. But worse for Donald Trump. The Supreme Court is going to decide whether or not he can just set tariffs based how he feels because of an emergency. He is not showing that this is indeed an economic emergency. Instead, he's showing the emergency is his feelings were hurt and his filet-o-fish just wasn't as good as it normally is.
If you haven't heard, now you're going to hear it. Trump is still upset and continuing his tantrum towards Canada. He now is slapping a 10% tariff on Canada. This is across all Canadian goods. So he is extremely upset, if you don't know, at Canada because they were playing an ad that displayed Ronald Reagan's voice saying how bad tariffs are for everybody. And Trump demanded that this be taken down and claimed that it was AI, but it was actually Ronald Reagan's voice. He was literally saying how bad tariffs are for everybody. And Trump did not like this. So he decided to continue his tantrum today and slap a 10% tariff across all Canadian goods. So get ready to pay more for oil because Canada is our #1 supplier for oil, even more so than Mexico and Saudi Arabia. Even some states get energy from Canada, like New York and Michigan. Another thing is natural gas. Huge pipelines are ran through the United States from Canada. We also get meat from them, so like beef and pork. We also get dairy from them, or milk, cheese, butter. And I know that this may not be a big deal, but maple syrup, Canada is literally, they dominate the market in maple syrup. So like wheats, oils, canola oil, all come from Canada, and a lot of stuff uses these type of oils. Cars, they'll be going up. A lot of our cars come from Canada, like GM, Ford, Stellantis, formerly Chrysler. Also, we're going to be paying a lot more for furniture because we get a lot of our lumber and wood. So like housing, we're going to be paying a lot. Like 10% is a lot, and it's going to hit our paychecks just as much if we buy from Canada. He's trying to hurt Canada's economy because he is salty. In retrospect, he's also hurting Americans because he is salty, which he hurts Americans every day, every hour, every minute, every second that he still breathes, literally.
So let me tell you why Donald Trump's behavior towards Canada over the last 12 to 14 hours has been so erratic, and why it has nothing to do with the advert. Two massive things have happened. Canada has done two massive things in the last few days, which would infuriate Donald Trump. So Donald Trump wants people to bow to him. Okay? Canada has not been doing that. A day or two ago, Mark Carney made a speech where he said, we're going to start doubling the amount of non-US exports. So we're going to find new trading partners. He said that we cannot rely on the United States anymore. That trading partnerships that we once had is gone. We're moving on. The bus is gone. We're on that bus. We're moving on. We are not going to be bowing to the United States anymore. We'll find our own path. That will infuriate Donald Trump because he wants to be bowed to. The other massive thing that Canada has done, and I'd love you to share this video, is that they have said, if Benjamin Netanyahu, I always struggle saying his name, the Israeli leader, steps on Canadian soil, he will be immediately arrested for war crimes. So that has happened in the last 5 days. And those two things would burn Donald Trump from the inside out. It has nothing to do with advert, even though those were Ronald Reagan's words. But I'm sure that's just the icing on the cake. Folks, let me know what you think about this in the comments.
Donald Trump is getting brutally mocked right before the World Series is set to begin between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and the premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, have teamed up in a way to call out and mock Donald Trump in a new advertisement. We know that those advertisements are driving Donald Trump nuts, like the advertisement that Ontario took out in New York, where they used word for word Ronald Reagan's message about how he doesn't like tariffs and how he supports free trade to explain why Donald Trump's tariffs are disastrous in the United States. That drove Donald Trump crazy. By the way, that ad is running during the World Series game tonight and through this weekend. So Doug Ford and Governor Newsom said, let's make another ad together. And they put one out together. And Doug Ford said, with the Blue Jays heading to the World Series against the LA Dodgers, California Governor Newsom and I have a friendly wager going on. Win or lose, we're thrilled to celebrate great baseball, good neighbors, and a friendship between Ontario and California. Governor Newsom then writes, here's to a great World Series and a tariff-free friendship between Ontario and California. Watch the ad that they made together that they just posted right before the World Series, trolling Donald Trump. He's not going to like this. Here, play this clip.
Hi, Governor Newsom. It's official. The Blue Jays are heading to the World Series to take on your Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's right, Premier. Two great teams, two proud places. Sounds like a perfect time for a friendly wager.
Okay, Governor, you're on. If the Blue Jays win, I'll send you some of Ontario's finest maple syrup in a proper tin can, the way it's meant to be enjoyed. The tariff might cost me a few extra bucks at the border these days, but it'll be worth it for a Jays win.
That's a sweet offer, Premier, but something tells me that syrup is staying north of the border when the Dodgers win. And when they do, I'll send you a bottle of California's championship-worthy wine. And hey, can you do me a favor? Think you can put it on the liquor store shelves?
I don't think so, buddy. Talk to your friend in the Oval Office. I can't wait for the Jays to bring it home. Either way, it's a win-win. Great neighbors, great friends, and a little cross-border competition.
Well, couldn't agree more. Here's to great baseball and some friendly bragging rights.
Go Jays!
As a lifelong San Francisco Giants fan, go Dodgers. Here's to a great World Series
and a tariff-free friendship between Ontario and California.
Yep, temper tantrum incoming in 3, 2, 1. And meanwhile, you had the news that in a poll, if the elections were held tomorrow between Governor Newsom and J.D. Vance amongst 18 to 29-year-olds, Governor Newsom leads by 30 points, according to Emerson. I guess J.D. Vance not that popular with young folks. Now, as you have Governor Newsom and Premier.
Thanks for clicking to watch today's video. And so Donald Trump has been humiliated by one of the ads that aired at the World Series in Canada. And so they were airing that ad about tariffs, and was saying how tariffs has brought about a lot of damage and has really hurt so many people. But Trump's reaction was instant, and so many people have reacted to that, and that's why we have prepared this compilation for you. We do not own the rights of this video. They belong to the original owners of the video. So let's dive in.
Breaking news over here. Donald Trump has just increased tariffs on Canada by 10%. This is a result of Doug Ford's ad campaign that he ran utilizing Ronald Reagan's voice, and also a very short clip of Ronald Reagan towards the end of it. In essence, Canada tried to lecture Donald Trump and divide Republicans and Americans on tariffs using Ronald Reagan's voice, and then got slapped with more tariffs. Despite the initial backlash by the Reagan Foundation and Donald Trump, for some reason, Canada decided that they were still going to run this advertisement during the World Series, which they did last night, even though it has been called out as being manipulated and not a good representation of what it was that Ronald Reagan was actually talking about. Trump has called this a hostile act that Canada has taken, and honestly, fair enough. You do have a foreign government taking speeches from a former president who is deceased, cutting them up in order to issue propaganda. I mean, that's really the only word for it. So yeah, fair enough. That is a pretty hostile, undiplomatic thing to do. Overall, what is the intention? I don't know, but apparently the Reagan Foundation is actually looking into their legal options because, yes, technically the speech itself isn't protected under copyright because it's public domain. However, the video and audio is most likely protected under copyright, which is owned by the Reagan Foundation. Not to mention that the state of California actually has posthumous laws where you cannot use the voice or likeness of a former president for up to 70 years past the time that they die. And Ontario didn't ask anybody's permission to do this. And then worse, they also edited it to an extent in order to make it look like Reagan was saying something that he wasn't technically. While we don't know whether or not this ad was intended to sway the US Supreme Court as they are going into a case about the use of tariffs, either way, this is very, very questionable timing and honestly just very, very questionable to do at all.
Donald Trump is freaking out again over the Ronald Reagan ad, and it's down to the point to where he's now putting an additional 10% tariff, right here, 10% tariff on Canada. If you don't know, Ottawa's Premier, Ford, put out a video which had a speech from Ronald Reagan. And in that, Reagan criticized tariffs. And look, I don't need to give you a history lesson. You can go back a few videos and watch what Ronald Reagan would have done in this scenario. But ultimately, it struck a chord with Trump. And now he put this online. And you could pause to read it, but the highlights are, 1, he says that Canada put up a fraudulent advertisement. He then said that Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, which, once again, he did not. He only used it as a last line of defense. And then said here, because of the serious misrepresentation of the facts and hostile act, I'm increasing the tariff on Canada by 10% over and above what they're paying now. And I know I have a big Canadian audience on this channel. We broke down how the ad really wasn't false. Sure, maybe it was a little misleading, but it's not false in terms of Ronald Reagan and the way that he felt about tariffs. And then, of course, the way that Donald Trump is using tariffs. They're being used in two completely different ways. So with that being said, Canadians who are watching this video, let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. I'll be sure to keep you updated, so please do share my videos and follow me for more.
Donald Trump's mad because Ronald Reagan's words are making him look bad, and in return, because Canada ran an ad for the first 2 nights of the World Series, he's now saying we're going to do a 10% increase in tariffs across the board on all Canadian goods, which means auto parts, 10%, natural gas, 10%, energy, 10%, wood, which he's already put massive tariffs on, 10%. Grains, cereals, other things that are made in Canada and shipped across the border, we're going to be paying 10% on a lot of stuff that we don't even know that we import from Canada. This is on top of the already astronomical increases to grocery prices and other things that we buy daily because Donald Trump's tariffs. Canada's not wrong in the video that they put out. They played it for 2 nights in the World Series. They're going to be taking it down on Monday, and Donald Trump is still upset about it. Ronald Reagan's actual words being used against Donald Trump have made Donald Trump furious.
Donald Trump just posted to Truth Social a few hours ago saying that he is raising the tariff on Canada by an additional 10%. Donald Trump's reasoning for this is that Canada, in his words, ran a fraudulent ad last night during the World Series, which showcases Ronald Reagan talking about the need for free trade. It's unclear if this additional 10% tariff is going to apply to the sectoral tariffs or just the 35% tariff that he has on Canada as a whole. That 35% tariff really only applies to about 5% of our exports that don't fall in with CUSMA. But the United States has sectoral tariffs on steel and aluminum, on auto parts, on softwood lumber, and other sectors, and it's unclear whether that 10% is going to apply there. We have not heard from Premier Doug Ford of Ontario, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is actually in Malaysia right now at the Southeast Asian Summit, but Donald Trump will also be attending that summit, so we could hear something pretty soon. It's unclear right now whether Prime Minister Mark Carney and Donald Trump are actually going to meet at this summit or not, but we are expecting that they probably will cross paths at some point.
We have some news right now. Donald Trump just increased tariffs on Canada across the board 10%, which means you're going to pay more when you go to the store to buy Canadian goods, and here's why. He's very upset about the Ronald Reagan advertisement, which clearly showed and correctly showed Ronald Reagan's words blasting tariffs. And while he demanded that that ad be taken down, it wasn't. Instead, Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, decided to display it for the first 2 nights of the World Series. It'll be taken down on Monday, but the first 2 nights of the World Series where the Blue Jays are playing the Dodgers, people saw the ad, and Trump isn't happy. And so now he's raising tariffs across the board 10%, which means things like aluminum, lumber, furniture, pharmaceuticals, and so much more coming from Canada will now cost 10% more, and we don't even know if Trump's going to go back to the negotiating table. We'll see what happens. Spread the word. Full updates on my Substack, linked in bio. Subscribe for free. Follow along for all the news that you need to know about. More to come very soon.
Breaking news, as Canada is going to pull their anti-tariff ad. They ran it last night during the World Series. They're going to pull it after this weekend. Now Trump has gone ballistic on Truth Social and has said he's going to put an immediate additional 10% tariff on imports from Canada. It's already a base tariff of 35% on most goods, which will make it 45%. There's a 50% tariff on steel already, which will make it 60%. And there was a 10% tariff on some energy products coming from Canada. So that'll be up to 20% now. Guys, we have no idea what's going to go on here. Trump is just furious about this ad and that they used Ronald Reagan. He's saying he's going to have this investigated and calls it a massive fraud. So keep posted as things develop with this. The relationship between Trump and Canada is deteriorating rapidly, minute by minute, literally. I'll see you back here. Comment what you think about it. Like this video, share it, spread the word, follow, subscribe. I'll see you back here for the 411.
Furious and embarrassed, Trump hit back the only way he knows how, by slapping all Canadian imports with a 10% tariffs. And when his team was asked, they say that it is a new economic protection measure. So guys, the Canadian ad not only criticized about Trump's trade strategies, but criticized about his leadership, saying that he was a man who was hurting people by his tariffs and making their lives even, more hard because of those same tariffs. And instead of Trump maybe staying calm or even addressing that issue diplomatically, his ego went too far because he slapped all Canadian imports with the 10% tariff, making even things more costly for the two countries. So guys, do you think that Trump had the right to hit back, or could he have just remained silent? Do you think that he had the right to, hit back with that 10% tariff revenge, or did he just make things even worse? Kindly share your thoughts, and also remember to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much for watching. See you on our next one.